listener production.
From the briefing team, this is The Beefing.
Hey, it's Helen Smith here. Welcome to The Beefing. Today's beef is on Colin Kaepernick versus the NFL. Let's get into it. Colin Kaepernick was a star quarterback and played in the National Football League, or the NFL, for 6 seasons, leading the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl and was just a few plays away from winning the title. The NFL is the highest professional level of American football in the world, with teams worth billions. But Kaepernick's decision to kneel during the national anthem in 2016 in protest against inequality and police brutality would end up costing him his career in the NFL. And at the time, it was widely condemned, especially by then and now President Donald Trump, who called him a son of a bitch for taking the knee.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Now, this beef isn't one-dimensional. It covers racism and police brutality, which is still a pressing issue in the US. So we're just going to cover the biggest moments. But let's go back to where it all began. This beef all started in August 2016 when Kaepernick made his first statement by sitting on the bench during the national anthem before the 49ers preseason's home game against the Green Bay Packers, telling media, "I'm not going to stand up to show pride in a flag or a country that oppresses black people and people of colour." And in response, the NFL said players are encouraged but not required to stand during the playing of the national anthem. Then, on September 1, 2016, Kaepernick switches it up and decides to protest by taking a knee while the national anthem is played before the 49ers versus the San Diego Chargers. And he's joined by teammate Eric Reid, who was the first player to kneel alongside Kaepernick. Now, earlier that week, before Kaepernick and Reid kneeled, the then Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump said, "I think it's a terrible thing, and, maybe he should find a country that works better for him." And in response, the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, breaks his silence almost a week after that first kneel on September 7th, saying, "I don't necessarily agree with what he's doing. I support our players when they want to see change in society, and we don't live in a perfect society. On the other hand, we believe very strongly in patriotism in the NFL." And you might be thinking, why did Kaepernick choose to protest in 2016? Well, he later revealed that it was in response to the deaths of young black men at the hands of white police officers, including one deadly confrontation between San Francisco police officers and 26-year-old Mario Woods. Back to the timeline. During the games on the opening weekend of the NFL season in 2016, on the 11th and 12th of September, more players started to protest during the anthem. Kaepernick and Reid kneeled again, and then some of their team members also displayed Black Power salutes, along with some members of the opposing team, the LA Rams. So traction is starting to build across the NFL, and similar protests are held by players across teams, which led to Trump saying that their actions show a great lack of respect and appreciation for the country. And the backlash against Kaepernick was heavy, who revealed that he had received death threats over his refusal to stand for the national anthem. Now, fast forward to March 2016. Kaepernick's agent tells NFL teams that he's going to opt out of his contract with the 49ers, a move made possible in a restructuring of his contract the previous October. Then, at the start of the NFL season in September 2017, the now President Donald Trump says that any player who kneels during the national anthem should be fired, with players from several teams now protesting and others remaining in the dressing room entirely during the anthem. So, in October 2017, Kaepernick is still unsigned after leaving the 49ers, and he files a grievance against NFL team owners who he believes are conspiring against hiring him because of his protests against racial injustice. Fast forward to May 2018, the NFL introduces a rule that teams will be fined if players kneel for the US national anthem, but that players who do not want to stand for the anthem can stay in the locker room until it's over, with the NFL saying, "We want people to respect the national anthem." But then just months later, the policy was put on hold, with the NFL and NFL Players Association issuing a joint statement saying that they're working on a mutual resolution. In the meantime, another feud occurs. Kaepernick is unveiled as the new face of a Nike advertising campaign, but it results in major backlash with haters and critics burning Nike trainers and clothing. But in some good news for the beef, in February 2019, Kaepernick reaches a settlement with the NFL over his collision case against team owners conspiring against hiring him. And in a joint statement with the NFL, Kaepernick says that the parties have decided to resolve the pending grievances. The resolution of this matter is subject to a confidentiality agreement, so there will be no further comment by any party. So it seemed that things were starting to simmer down, but in August 2019, Kaepernick is still unsigned, making it 889 days without a contract. So it's not looking good for him. But he was still receiving support outside of the NFL, including from Rihanna, who decided to decline an invitation to headline the Super Bowl halftime show in 2019 in support of Kaepernick. And the NFL refused to comment. And in an effort to address the false narratives around his efforts to join an NFL team, representatives for Kaepernick put out a 2-page statement that said, "No team has offered Kaepernick a job or brought him in for a workout since the 2016 season." It noted that the Seattle Seahawks brought Kaepernick in for a visit but did not work him out, and that no other team has offered to interview or visit him. This was despite other false narratives in the media to the contrary. And it also said that he had been working out 5 days a week for 3 years and has not demanded a specific salary, saying that his team has reached out to all 32 teams in the NFL with little to no response from teams about an opportunity. So the statement went on to list Kaepernick's statistics from 2016 and his NFL career as evidence of his ability to play professionally. Pretty much, it was just proving that he was a good player, and he was.
2nd down and 4. Kaepernick keeps it. Fooled everybody. Colin Kaepernick. What a game. Touchdown.
And that statement ended saying that, in summary, it is difficult to think of another young player in the NFL history with statistics and character as impressive as Colin's. And the fact that he was not given an opportunity to earn a spot on the NFL roster again after what he accomplished was kind of bizarre. So later that year, the NFL offered to arrange a private workout for Kaepernick with all 32 teams invited to attend, reportedly to showcase his readiness to play. But Kaepernick actually declined this. Instead, he chose to hold his own workout session at a high school in order to allow media to attend, claiming that the NFL denied media access to their workout sessions, and he wanted to stay transparent so that, everything was on the table. And in response, the NFL said that they were disappointed that Colin did not appear for his workout and that his decision has no effect on his status in the league, and he remains an unrestricted free agent eligible to sign with any club. So as we reach the end of 2019, Kaepernick is still unsigned, making it just over 3 years since he first kneeled in protest. And then, in May 2020, things started to ramp up. Kaepernick, alongside LeBron James and other star athletes, defended protests against the death of George Floyd.
There's people being murdered unjustly and not being held accountable. Cops are getting paid leave for killing people. That's not right. I'm seeing things happen to people that don't have a voice, people that don't have a platform to talk and have their voices heard and affect change. I know what I'm doing what's right, and I know other people see what I'm doing is right. It's something that we have to come together, we have to unite, we have to unify and make a change.
Posting to Twitter, "When civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction, and that the cries for peace will rain down. And when they do, they will land on deaf ears because your violence has brought this resistance. We have the right to fight back. Rest in power, George Floyd." Then in June 2020, more star athletes started to speak up and called for the NFL to condemn racism and the systematic oppression of Black people. And the NFL said on June the 5th, in response, this: "This is a time of self-reflection for all. The NFL is no exception. We stand with the Black community because Black lives matter." And then the next day, the NFL announced that players should be allowed to protest during the national anthem, with the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell saying ultimately that the NFL were in the wrong.
It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, Black people in our country. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter.
So where does this leave Kaepernick? Well, in 2021, Kaepernick released a Netflix biopic series, Colin in Black and White, recounting his formative years and navigating race, the NFL, class and culture while aspiring for greatness. And in this series, he also likens the NFL recruitment process to a 19th century slave market, which commentators say could suggest the question of dehumanization of players within the sport and the power imbalances, with one study finding that Americans actually believe athletes are performers whose only role should be to entertain. And then in 2022, Kaepernick worked out for the LA Raiders, but no deal was made. And then in October 2024, he had this to say about returning to the sport.
When I look at my career, it was 15 years of work and dedication before I ever stepped foot on an NFL field. And to have that passion and chase it for that long, you don't just give that up. You don't just walk away. You chase that, you pursue it. And to your point on, do you make a point around that? There will never be an instance where I'm not ready. And there will never be an instance where, oh, it's because he doesn't want to anymore.
You want them to know that you want to.
Absolutely.
And it was also reported in April and July this year that he's still training every day. So while this beef may seem over, Kaepernick did lose his career in the NFL over it, but he also did create a lot of change in the sport, and he inspired people to attend protests and donate to political causes. But that's it for today's beefing on Colin Kaepernick versus the NFL. If you liked this episode, let us know. And while you're there, if you could subscribe or follow wherever you're listening from, it's a really easy way you can support everything we do here on The Briefing. And you can check us out on Instagram and on YouTube at The Briefing Podcast. I'm Helen Smith. Catch you next time.